the speaker and then let her get going. You guys can continue to eat while she's talking. I noticed she handed out, there's handouts in the middle of the table. That's for all of the table. And she'll tell you later how you can get copies if more than one person wants the copy of what's at the table. There's also some blank papers there to take notes on if you forgot to bring yours. So this is Emerald Parisi, and she is from Meadowlark Counseling Services. She lives just outside of Judith Gap, and she's a licensed clinical social worker. She has a passion for healthy communities in rural Montana, and she specializes in trauma, addictions, and community resiliency. She's also my niece, if you guys don't know, and she really does love people and want the best for them. So this is going to be great, and I'm just going to turn it over to her because she has a lot more important things to say.
The microphone makes me really nervous, and I might forget to use it. So remind me if you can't hear me. I am from Montana. I grew up in Livingston. Graduated in Harlowton. You guys know that you know Judith Gap and everything. Our sports teams play. I have 7 children.
7 children?
7. I do. Most of them are skiing today with their dad. I have a recovery story, which is why I'm passionate about addictions, and all of this is intertwined. What I'm going to talk about here today is intertwined with everything. I am a trauma-informed therapist too, and so I just want to take a minute to acknowledge the courage that it is taking for you all to be here. And there may be, you're looking around and you're thinking, there should be other people here, like you kind of have in your mind, and they just aren't ready. So I will come back if you want me to, but I just want to acknowledge that it's okay to feel whatever you're feeling. You know, we don't, our culture doesn't really allow that. Sometimes even in church cultures, you know, because we're supposed to just be happy all the time and not really focus on the negative. And I'd like to challenge you to look at this like the feelings that are going to arise during this day and any of your experiences with suicide, kind of like a wave in an ocean. And if you resist the feelings, just like you'd resist a wave, you'll drown. You just got to ride it out, you know. Like if you're familiar with ocean culture, if you're out there and stuck, you can't resist. I mean, even swimming in rivers, I think here, you really just got to find a place and go with it and trust that you're going to land where you need to land. So that's my analogy. Don't fight the wave. And that's every emotion on the gamut is going to come up today. And maybe anger, especially, and that's something we have a really hard time with that, you know, when it comes to a death of a loved one or someone that is suicidal, you know. Sometimes it's hard to acknowledge that, man, I'm really mad that they did that, you know, and that's normal and good, and it's okay, and if you don't feel it, you'll get stuck there. So, but also because I'm trauma-informed, I know that our brains do really crazy things when we're facing a topic that is really uncomfortable. So I really just wanted to take a few minutes. I'm going to make all of y'all be kind of groovy with me here, and I really just want us to breathe. And there's just a really easy breathing technique, and it's where you just breathe in kind of as deep as you can and hold it in for about 2 or 3 seconds before you let it go. Don't hold too long because then you'll pass out. I had a smoker like that, one of my clients, he just about went over in the session because I said 3 or 4 seconds. Hold it in for 3 or 4 seconds. So now I'm doing 2 or 3. But there's something that will help, you know. I know you guys are eating and stuff, but if we could just take a minute and even just 5 breaths of just breathe. Oh, and that reminds me, there's paper on there. If there are any fears, anything, write them down. I'm coming at this as a person of faith as well. I can't do it otherwise. That's just how it is. So write your fears down if you want. Breathe through them, crumple them up and let them go. it's a good way to get your feelings out by doing that. So grab a Sharpie or whatever if you want. And let's just do, we're just gonna do 5 breaths and just breathe in and hold in. You just count for 2 or 3 seconds. And then let go. I always pray when I'm doing that, but you don't have to. You probably all are, if you did it right, if you follow my instructions, you can probably sense it head to toe, really just relaxation. Now you can retain some of what I'm going to talk. You know, when your brain is activated in that fear or deep emotion place, it's really hard to take in information. So some logistical stuff. Doreen mentioned CEUs. I don't know if anyone is here that needed CEUs, and this will not count for CEUs. I'm not, maybe someday, but not right now. The paper, there's a packet on each table, and it will cover some of the stuff that I'm talking about. And if you wanted the packet and you aren't going to get it today, then Doreen has the hard copies of it. She'll write your name down and get you the completed packet. Also my card, I'm really open and available, and I'm really honest. Reach out to me if you need to. I really mean that, like night or day. We're in a desert kind of when it comes to needing help and having questions about these hard things. I understand that. I am where I am too. So I know how scary it is. I mean, you think there's someone that you know in your life that is suicidal. It's really scary to know what to do. And then when you know what to do, it's scary to do it without having someone backing you up. And I can be that backup for you. So please reach out. I mean that. There's extra cards on the table. I was going to read a book, but I think I'm not going to. That's my being a mom of 7. I got to come with the book. I'm not going to read it all, but this book is called You're Here for a Reason. It's a beautiful, beautiful book. That's a philosophy I'm bringing here. I believe that about everyone, and I believe you believe that about everyone. And sometimes people forget that. They're here for a reason, and that they're part of a puzzle, and that piece missing matters. And so sometimes that's the biggest thing that we can bring for people is we can remind them of that. Your puzzle piece will be missed. It makes the whole picture different when you're not in it. Maybe if we have time and you really want me to read it, I can later. I am going to talk about a few statistics. Montana leads the nation in suicide rates. I don't know if you know that. We have consistently been in the top 3 for like 50 years plus. Sometimes 1, sometimes 2, but almost always first or second in the whole nation. It's kind of a big thing, and there's reasons for that. Some of the reasons are, I gotta look at my notes here. I know what they are, but I don't want to forget anything. Some of the reasons, some interesting reasons that are coming up have to do with vitamin D deficiency. And that to me is so exciting because that's kind of easy. Like that's a supplement or getting out in the sunshine. So, and we know like in the winter months and stuff, you know, it gets hard around here. We don't have as much vitamin D exposure as other people. So keep that in mind. There's just lack of resources. We all know that. If someone is willing to get help, it's hard to know where to go, and sometimes there's nowhere to go in your community. You have to go elsewhere. So that's a huge reason. Social isolation, all these things that you know. Alcohol is a really huge thing in Montana. It's a very accepted thing that happens here, and alcoholism and suicide are positively correlated. They go hand in hand together, and some of our culture and acceptance of drinking here contributes to that. there's a lot of veterans, there's a lot of American Indians, and so a lot of times I'll talk about suicide and people will think, oh, it's just them. We have this rate because of the Native Americans. Well, first of all, they're not just. If it is just them, it is them, and it's important. But also, the leading counties are non-Native counties. Park County, Silverboat, which is Livingston, it's where I grew up. It's when I kind of started. The first speech I gave like this was in Livingston after an epidemic of 3 youth deaths. Silverboat, Deer Lodge County, I don't think any of the leading counties in Montana actually are reservation counties. And the most common person in Montana that will die by suicide is an older white male. And I'll just leave that there with you for just a minute. I think we have an idea of what a suicidal person means, and I don't know if we put that person there. But that will lead to the other risk of, reason why Montana is leading the country, and older white males in Montana are not gonna say they're struggling. They're just not. We can do so, someday, but it's seen as weakness, right? If you say, I'm sad, I don't want to live anymore, I miss my work, it's of the retirement age, those are the most at risk in Montana, and it's really hard for them to admit that they're struggling because it's seen as weakness. And all struggling, and in Montana, we're like, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, figure it out, why, we ask why, don't ever ask why. Why do you think that? Because then, that's just like just don't do that. Well, why can't you just wake up? Or why can't you just figure it out? Why would you be like that? We've all done it. I've done it. I don't want to bring any shame here. Like, it's part of our culture here. It just is part of what it's like to be Montanans. And our strength is beautiful. That's a beautiful thing. But it also could be our weakness if it's not balanced, right? Another reason why Montana leads the nation, as do all other states that have a lot of weapons, is because guns are the most common means here. The national average is more than 50% of suicide deaths are with guns, so it's significant nationally, but in Montana, it's 70, especially with children. So children and youth that are dying by suicide are using guns at 70% of the time, and you don't survive a gun. Okay? So, and I'm just looking at, this is heavy information. This is if this is the first time you've heard this, I just want to acknowledge this is heavy information. It's okay to feel. Remember, just go with the wave. Just go with the wave. Don't try to get out of it. Guns are part of our culture here. We subsist on elk and deer. I just want to be very clear about that. I'm thankful for that. If we take guns away from Montanans, that's our culture. That's our identity being taken away. That's not an answer here. And sometimes maybe bigger government agencies want to come in and bring that as an answer, and that's just not going to happen. But there are ways that we can be safe with our guns. Just like this is the 11 commandments of gun safety. Like when you go through hunter safety, you learn how to be safe with the gun in all other ways. But this way is very, very important. And if you know someone that you think is struggling, I'll give you warning signs so you can start paying attention to what's going on around you. Then you figure out if they have guns that are accessible to them and try to mitigate that in their life. Women attempt far greater than men, like it's a crazy amount, but they don't complete suicide. Men attempt less, but they complete more. And why? Because they're using guns. It's not that women don't want to die when they make that momental choice, but they often just use a lesser lethal means. And the truth is after someone has a serious attempt, like a serious overdose or something, they most likely won't go on to die by suicide in their life. It's when that click happens, everything is a blur. Everything. Nothing else matters but dying. And so you go to your means, and a gun is, and that you know is going to work. And in Montana, we have a lot of guns. So if you go to the Montana Suicide Prevention Coalition, it's the Department of Health and Human Services, you can get like free gun locks. Especially if you have kids, it's hard. Like if we're talking about adult male that are in retirement age, maybe we can come up with an idea here, you guys, because our communities are so different. You know, you're not going to go to your husband or your grandpa and be like, I'm going to lock the gun up, right? So there's areas that we need improvement in, you know, and even the state of Montana can't really help us in our communities figure out how to do that. It's just not going to work. But for children, for sure, especially because 70% of deaths by suicide in Montana, but for children, are by guns. So know that and be aware of that. And police often will come and you can make an agreement and say, hey, maybe for a week, would it be okay if we gave your guns to, if you have a trusted local sheriff or something, or someone like that, that's a kind and good, it's a gatekeeper, I would call him, then maybe that person can come in and say, you know, we're worried. Is it okay if we hang on to your guns for you? There's crazy statistics on like, because that moment of decision, if it's hindered, saves lives. So even packaging for pills, okay? So when someone has just a bottle that they can eat, they're more likely to die by suicide than someone. That's why some of the pharmacy companies have the pills packed one at a time. That's a deterrent, because nobody that is in that suicidal mind wants to, you know, that will deter them for sure. So any deterrent that you can think of, you can't take a gun away from whoever, but could you think of a way to deter the use of that gun? Do you guys have any questions on that at all?
Any statistics about those men that are, 50 years or older, why it's so likely or prevalent?
I don't know about statistics, and you got statistics on that.
Yeah.
But I think they're retired, and I think their identity is missing, and our culture doesn't really value.
Probably Montana.
I value.
Montana's low rate wages too. Probably has.
Yes. So worried about money. Yeah. Absolutely. That is a huge thing. We just got to kind of do better at valuing men in retirement too. I mean, my dad he's back there. We're like, I gave him when he retired, I gave him a plaque that, well, it wasn't retirement, it was his first Social Security check, but we had a first Social Security check party. But what did it say? What did that dream? Because this is like this is exciting. Retirements could be exciting, you know? So just some of us is just switching kind of how we think and we value things and what we put on people.